Hey, it's Ray, VP of Marketing at Freshpaint. We've got some big news from HHS this week. So, the big bomb that dropped is that HHS finally gave us all a path forward and has approved CDPs like Freshpaint as viable solutions to replace these web tracking technologies that are not HIPAA compliant. And that's mostly because these native trackers have this unfettered access to all the customer data from your healthcare website. And they're capturing things that include PHI and sharing those with destinations that do not sign a business associate agreement. So enter Freshpaint. A CDP like Freshpaint will sign a BAA, replace all those native trackers, and then give you a lot of control of how that data flows to tools across your organization. So you can ensure that tools get the data set they need. And for all of those advertising and analytics tools that don't sign business associate agreements, you can make sure that PHI is never shared with those tools. So big relief. We have a pathway forward. HHS has explicitly called out CDPs like Freshpaint as that pathway forward to replace those, untrusting web trackers on your website. But there's a lot more. There's a lot of points of clarification that came out of this recent guidance. And I've been involved with, interviews with journalists, probably done 100 webinars and podcasts, and we've talked about this for the last year, and I'm really thankful that HHS has finally cleared the air. The first one is that unauthenticated pages can risk HIPAA compliance. Let me explain. So HHS gave us an example, and they were very specific about this example. If you have an oncology services web page and a student who is just doing a research project on cancer visits that page, even though you're collecting their IP address and device ID out of the box, even though we know the specificity of health information on that page, that has nothing to do with that student's previous or future healthcare needs. However, if you take that exact same page and you have a potential cancer patient who's coming to that page to get a second opinion about a future treatment for cancer, that same mix of data, that IP address and that specific health information, that is considered a PHI risk when it comes to HIPAA. And so you as a marketer, how do you tell the difference between the student and the actual patient? You don't. So that means that any of those pages that have health information, health context on them, those are pages where you're going to want to remove those web trackers that do not have supported BAAs in the background. We also learned that consent managers, they're becoming more and more popular. They do not replace written authorization in a HIPAA world. So that cute little box at the bottom, if you're putting that on your website and you think that your users and visitors that click the accept cookies replaces HIPAA written authorization, HHS was very clear today that it doesn't. This one has been super sticky. So I've been a part of many conversations where we hear that IP address is viewed as PHI by itself. HHS was very explicit in this updated guidance this week. IP address by itself is not PHI. It is an identifier, and it has to be in combination with specific health information when we're talking about unauthenticated web pages like your website. So IP address plus find a doctor page or someone who's scheduling an appointment or a very specific condition on a page, yes, that would be considered PHI in combination. And then it has to be shared or captured by a web tracking technology that does not have a BAA that supports it. The last one, we've heard about this a lot. Google Analytics 4, as an example, collects PHI but claims in their terms of service that they do not store the PHI. HHS has made it very clear now that removal of PHI after capture is not enough. It's about the capture of PHI in the first place. So if Google Analytics 4 captures IP address as an identifier, then what they do with that later doesn't make any difference. It's the fact that they captured it and the fact that they do not have a BAA to support that. So the HHS thankfully cleared the air for us on a lot of things. There's a lot of clarification on questions that we've had over the last year. And it's very clear now there's a path forward. CDPs like Freshpaint can help solve all of these use cases that we just talked about.